so. Yeah, I'm just kind of waiting. Mine says 6:28.
I can
don't
see
have
that
that.
it's roughly close to the 6, but I don't know.
No, we've got, it's like 1 minute.
1 minute, okay.
Uh,
I don't know if there's
yes,
anybody up there
that's what I
taking notes tonight.
understood.
I don't see
I don't
anybody.
see anybody.
She's got the recorder. Irene, excuse me. Can you have the recorder, right?
We're rolling.
Is David not attending tonight, do you know?
Haven't heard anything?
I have not
Okay.
heard.
We'll wait another minute.
Oh, he is here. Thank you.
Well, you might as well just go. People are sick. Like, that's not how it works.
Oh, really? Good for them. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that needs to happen.
Me here because
I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Kolianos,
Here.
Mr. Bolton, Mr. Tunstall,
Here.
Ms. Protomitis,
here.
Ms. Page,
Here.
Do we have any public comments before we start the meeting this evening? Yes, sir.
So
Doug?
can we ask you to?
Oh, we don't have a podium.
Are any of the microphones hooked up?
I don't think so, but we can certainly.
Well, we're recording.
We're actually
so-
recording it. Why don't you have him turn yours, and I'll just let you borrow mine. You'd have to
It
come up
needs
and
to
just
be the
speak into the
microphone.
mic if you don't mind.
And if you can state your name and address for the record.
Okay, sure. My legal name is Harold Douglas McElwain. I go by Doug, my middle name. I live at 305 Bath Street, right across the alley Boyer for a little later on in the meeting here. And my concern or my comments today are about the historical map confusion. I've spoken to multiple people in the city. I live on the south side of Boyer on Bath Street in between Lemon and Lime. I found one map where I exist. In all other maps, I can't find, or all other surveys, or all research I've done, I can't find where 305 Bath Street even exists. But yet I'm told I'm a contributing member to the Historical Society, so if I'm on the south side of Bath Street, which I was told this morning, I am not in the Historical District. Why am I a contributing member, number one? Number two, we have massive drainage issues, which I know aren't the Historical Board's issue, but they will be when we talk about my friend Phil's proposed building. So I want to address those drainage issues with my house because every time it rains hard, I flood, and I certainly flooded big time for me. But if I'm not in the Historical District, I'm not sure why I would have to appear in front of this group to address those issues. But I'm told by one person I do have to, and then I'm told by multiple other people I don't, and I can't get a straight answer from anybody. And the city that takes care of the Boyer Alley, supposedly, has never responded, even though I've approached them 5 times. So my concern for you folks, as much as me, is I run pretty large companies, and legalities come into a lot of things. If your maps are so out of date, from 1950s, and your surveys are from back there, and your maps are incorrect, how can you legitimately make a decision on someone's opens a large can of worms and it opens potential lawsuit, which I'm a good neighbor, I'm not gonna sue anybody. But if you've made past decisions for people that have adversely affected their property and or their wallet based on improper or incorrect map, I think you're opening a large can of worms. And I'm here mostly about the drainage issues, which I'll speak to again when Phil has his time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Can we have the quasi-judicial announcement and the swearing in of speakers, please?
This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the board acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Is there anyone here wishing to speak either on behalf of the city or on behalf of the applicant? Please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. If you're an applicant, yes. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Do we have the ex parte communication announcement?
Does anyone on the board have any ex parte communications they'd like to disclose? Seeing none?
Okay, thank you. The first case we're going to consider is the CA 1683 Nancy Logaglio, 10 South Pinellas.
Wait a minute, there we had a updated agenda. We actually have minutes.
Okay. All right.
With the red markings on it.
Let me pass this that direction. Are the minutes in here?
All right. Well, then we will review the minutes. Thank you. I didn't get that one. We are asked to approve of the minutes of January the 11th, 2016. Has everyone on the board had an opportunity to read those minutes? Are there any additions or any revisions or anything to those minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Being that I'm the only one that actually was present at these meetings, but we still need a second from the board.
Mr. Tunstall was present also.
Yeah, a second.
Oh, okay, thank you, thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Proto-Romaitis,
Yes.
Mr. Tunstall,
Yes.
Ms. Kolianos,
Yes. Now we will turn to the minutes of February 1st, 2016. Is there any comments from the board on those minutes? I would like to make a comment. What I had hoped that we could have in the minutes was a restating of the application for the first, let me get the right one here. Thank you. An application that was on, let's see. on the February 1st minutes, we were reviewing again because there had been a continuation of the case CA 15-114, and what I was hoping that could be added to these minutes was that application, because when it first came before us in January, it had 4 different parts to it, and 2 of those parts were eliminated. And so that's what I was asking, if that application could be restated on these minutes. I'm just trying to get the clarity into those minutes.
So you want the motion added to this from the previous meeting that continued it?
Well, it continued it, but when they brought it back for the February meeting, they eliminated 2 of the portions of the application. Because I have the original ones. So I just thought those maybe needed to be restated as to what we were voting on in this application, or in these minutes.
I don't see why we can't go back and do that.
Was it discussed?
Because the meetings are, the minutes are an iteration of what was discussed at that meeting. So if those eliminations were not discussed,
I'd have to go back and listen to
Then
the
it
tape to
shouldn't
know if we formally even discussed whether or not, sections had been different. Obviously, there was a transition between that previous application and the new application with the materials were different and that type of thing. Whether we actually physically went over and listed the differences of the application, that I don't remember if we had that conversation or not.
I believe we did. That's what my recollection is, because the original application had 4 different parts to it, and when they brought it back for the February meeting, 2 of those had been deleted. And that's all I'm asking to have stated into the minutes.
We can certainly go back and check the tape and find out what's on the tape. And if that's on the tape, I'd be glad to add whatever that information is. I can have Kim go back and just review that tape and listen to see what was discussed initially on that application or throughout the application if it was discussed. Certainly can we move to the forward
Well, I think
portion.
this is, when you presented the application, you told about these 2 portions being deleted, and that was what we had been given. And so that's what I'm asking, if that can be included.
This actually was different. Michelle did the second reading. I worked on the first reading because she wasn't here during that
Right.
time. So then she talked about that, and then we went back yet again after this one, if you remember, that you'll see in forthcoming minutes, and actually had a whole separate application that came forward. There were 2 formal applications here, but the actual application was heard 3 times. Because the first application, it took them 2 meetings to get through, to get approved. Then, once they got through that, Michelle unfortunately didn't catch all the things that they wanted to do. They didn't have those conferences that should have been had. As a result, they came back through after Michelle left, and we, formalized the other pieces of that, recognizing the pieces that we had already approved. But we can certainly go back to this, because I couldn't tell you whether or not, that was discussed or not. It may very well have been. So we can do that. We can bring these back. So if you would like to table these minutes, and then we'll go back to the tape and then bring them back to your next meeting, if that's the pleasure of the board.
I just feel like it would clarify those minutes.
We can
And
certainly
that's
do
what
that.
we need to do as we go back and forth different cases.
So
I
if we can get a
appreciate that.
motion to table these and bring them back, we'd be glad to do that.
Do I have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to table the minutes and bring them back with the possible addition of.
Right, that would be right.
Second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Do we do a roll call for this? I'm not sure.
Ms. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Proter-Midas,
Yes.
Mr. Tunstall,
Yes.
Ms. Kolianis.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now. Now we move on to our new cases. CA 1683, Nancy Cleo. I'm sorry, I'm probably not pronouncing that anywhere near correct. 10 South Pinellas Avenue, application for a new wall sign.
Okay, for the record, my name is Lisa Wargo, Principal Planner. This is application CA 16-83, located at 10 South Pinellas Avenue. This is a contributing but altered structure. The applicant is requesting a certificate of approval to allow for a new wall sign placed at the commercial business located at the above name address on the corner of South Pinellas Avenue and West Court Street. The architectural style is the Tudor Revival style. The zoning district is the Special Area Plan T5B zone, and it's located within the Community Redevelopment District. The owner is Thomas Fillertu. I hope I didn't insult anyone. The applicant is Nancy Lojat.
Ogilio?
Once again, I apologize. Okay, the structure is a contributing but altered structure built in the Tudor Revival style and was constructed circa 1930 in the Depression New Deal historical context. The building was constructed in brick and has a steep gabled roof pitch composed of composite shingles. There are 2 off-centered metal doors for a main entrance. A portion of the storefront was replaced and a canopy was removed circa 1980, and portions of the roof were replaced with a 1-story flat roof on the north side and a 1-story flat roof over the stucco portion of the building on the south side circa 1960. The applicant is seeking a certificate of approval to allow for the new wall sign that has already been painted on the front facade of the stucco portion of the building, and the city sign code allows for the following. It allows for, within historic preservation district, 0.5 square feet per linear feet of building frontage. The frontage for this property measures 68 feet and allows for 34 square feet of allowable sign area for the building frontage. The new sign placed on the facade equals approximately 11.5 square feet in area. The review criteria and analysis. In reviewing an application for the certificate of approval, the board shall consider the following criteria. The height and width of any proposed alteration or new construction shall be consistent with that of the adjacent contributing structures and with those of structures of similar character and architectural style found throughout the immediate neighborhood or the district. The staff's analysis is that the new sign replaces another business sign that was less compatible with the adjacent contributing structures. Although the new painted sign does not consist of an historic style font or appearance, the massing of the new sign is more compatible than the previously existed. Number 2, the width and height of windows, doors, and entries shall be consistent with the character of the building's original architectural style. Repair or replacement of missing architectural features such as windows, mullions, doors, entries, handrails, etc. should be based on accurate duplications substantiated by historic, physical, or pictorial evidence rather than on conjectural designs or the availability of different architectural elements from the other buildings or structures. In staff's review, we found that other than repainting the wall in a neutral color, the addition of the new wall sign and the addition of the new wall sign, no other features of the structure have been altered. Number 3 and number 4 we found not applicable, but if you all disagree with that, you can obviously bring that up following our analysis. Number 5, the size and mass or shape of the building after alteration shall be reflective of the building's original architectural style. The size and mass or shape of the proposed structure, new construction, should reflect the character of contributing buildings within the district, as well as those immediately surrounding the subject property, and shall include a review of the architectural elements such as roof lines, fenestration, and other components of facade design. With staff's analysis, we provided the design review guidelines manual, which states the following in relation to storefronts and signs. If the original storefront or earlier storefront no longer exists or is too deteriorated, the historic character of the building shall be retained through the contemporary design that is compatible to the scale, design, materials, detailing, and facade rhythm of the historic building, or replaced with an accurate historic building sign. For the signage guidelines, these guidelines shall be implemented in conjunction with the existing sign ordinances. New signage shall be located on the flat, unadorned parts of the facade, such as the horizontal band between the storefront and second floor, or on windows, awning flaps, fascia, or frieze, or other areas where signs have been historically placed on the building. The size and mass of the new sign is more, under staff's analysis, the size and mass of the new sign is more compatible with the structure than the previous wall signs. So it's, in staff's opinion, the additional design elements can be added to the new wall sign to portray a more historic appearance. Number 6 pertains to landscaping, and there was no landscaping added in this case. Number 7, the distinctive I'm sorry, I'm having a problem with my words today. The distinctive architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced wherever possible. Architectural details, including color, materials, texture, and site lighting, shall be treated as to make the building structure or traditional cultural property consistent with the property's original architectural style and character. New materials should replicate the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. Under staff's analysis, we found that the new wall sign could be altered to reflect a more historic character. Number 8, all buildings, structures, sites, and traditional cultural properties shall be recognized as products of their own time. Any alterations, modifications, or other changes to the structure or traditional cultural property should not attempt to create an earlier appearance than the original date of the construction. Under staff's analysis, we have found that had staff had the opportunity to review a proposed wall sign design through the permitting process prior to the applicant performing the work without a required sign permit, we would have recommended the incorporation of historic elements and character into the design of the sign. Under number 9, the renovation of contributing structures in an historic or cultural district or designated sites shall meet the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. Under staff's analysis, we provided that the Secretary of Interior standards recommend the following when a storefront is replaced. Designing and constructing a new storefront when the historic storefront is completely missing. It may be an accurate restoration using historical, pictorial, and physical documentation, or be a new design that is compatible with the size, scale, material, and color of the historic building. Not recommended is creating a false historic appearance because the replaced storefront is based on insufficient historical, pictorial, and physical documentation. Introducing a new design that is incompatible in size and scale and material and color is also not recommended. Not recommended is using inappropriately scaled signs and logos or other types of signs that obscure, damage, or destroy remaining character defining features of the historic building. Under number 10, the proposed project shall conform with other requirements of the code and be in compliance with the applicable goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Staff finds that the new sign is in compliance with the city's land development code, the special area plan district regulations, and the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. We also find that no archaeological sites will be impacted. For this reason, staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request for the new wall sign. Any questions?
I have some questions, and this could be just because I'm new, but when we read through this, there seems to be 5 instances where the staff kind of questions the new sign, particularly like number 8, it says, had the staff had the opportunity to review a proposed wall sign design through the permitting process prior to the applicant performing the work, you would have recommended incorporating historic elements. So I'm guessing that opportunity did not exist. I don't understand why that opportunity didn't exist.
What would we do with that?
The sign was put up without pursuing a sign permit, without the applicant
So
coming in for a
because
sign
the
permit.
applicant went ahead and put the sign up, it still fails to have all of the historic elements that we would like it to have, but we're still going to approve it? The staff recommends an approval?
As mentioned, I think staff feels that there could have been more of an historic character placed into the sign.
Right?
That being said, the sign does meet the massing of the design guidelines. It is better than what was previously
Yeah.
there.
That we said more historic. Item number 7 says it could be altered to reflect a more historic character.
That is correct. We don't object to the actual design of it. We feel like the font probably could have been a little more historic, maybe even some type of scroll work design around it to make it look more historical. But as far as the massing goes, we find that all in compliance with design guidelines.
Okay. It just seems like there are, of course, some are non-applicable, but there are 11 items here, and we have concerns, or staff has indicated concerns about 5 of them, yet is proceeding with recommending the request. And so I'm just wondering that when the original sign was by Mr. Thomas Villaretu had the original sign, that went so far out of our code that now we're trying to bring it back within line in baby steps. Is that interpretation correct? Or was there no code when the original sign was there?
I don't know when the original sign was actually put up onto that building. As a result, that sign wasn't even close to meeting your design guidelines. When you review these types of applications, when staff does not have the opportunity to look at an application or request before it's actually placed on a wall. Now, in this case, we're talking about paint on a wall. That being the case, it's still burdensome to the applicant to have to basically paint over that just to come back through the process to get approval for another sign. We have lots of things that we end up going through the process after the fact. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish folks would come in, sit with my staff, sit with Anthony's staff, go over the requirements that are required so that these things don't happen. Unfortunately, when they do happen, we make the best of the situation that we can. The massing, it does in fact meet the requirements of your design guidelines. Would we like it to have a more historic feel? Yes, but you do not have design review here in Tarpon Springs, with the exception of what's in your design manual. You do not have uniform sign codes. You do not have that. Now, when we looked at the last signs that we really looked at in any depth where it was just a sign application was for the historic train depot. That font fits the character of that particular building. The character of this building is somewhat changed from the bike shop that used to be there, the kayak shop that used to be there, to a little bit different type of a retail use. They have a more modern logo and that type of thing. The interesting thing is you're dealing with a business that deals with a historic component to it. It's salvage, it's antiques, it's historical items that come through there. That being the case, the fact that they didn't come forward, we don't want to be overly burdensome to them, but we do want to be respectful of the fact that this board, on an increasing basis, is seeing applications like this that are after the fact. We want to bring those forward and be fair to the applicant that you are meeting the criteria. However, there are things that you could have done that you still consider to do, because again, we're talking about paint on a wall. We're not talking about somebody who put in some type of wall sign or something that was, plastered on the building or stuccoed onto the building. You're really talking about paint on a wall. Again, we try to accommodate applicants as much as we possibly can, but there's a fine line to walk between what's appropriate and, you know, what we can do. The board certainly can recommend, if you'd like, that the applicant look at additional options. I don't know that you're going to get a positive vibe. This is really their logo up on the wall. They don't have a logo like some places have, you know, a mascot or that type of thing, or like with the popcorn factory, you know, on their sign they have a logo for their particular thing. Their logo is their name. So really, that more modern appeal to that name, that's really the treatment for their business, to try to sell their business. If it fits, if it doesn't fit, it's really, in this case, a judgment call. It fits the intent of the sign code, definitely. It fits the land development code requirements for the sizing and that type of thing. The color pattern and palette that they chose is probably one of the more appropriate ones that we've had come through lately. We've had some kind of interesting signs of late. You know, those type of things are all there. It's just a question of, we would have preferred the applicant to come to us first, so we could have kind of sat down, had those conversations, given them the opportunity to say, here's the design guidelines for the Heritage Preservation Board. Before you go forward and do a sign, please walk the district, see the things that people have done in the district. And certainly that would have given us the time to send them to Hibiscus Street, where the signage is appropriate, to the train depot where the sign and the fonts on the signs are all appropriate. So then they could get a feel for that type of thing and try to incorporate those things. But we certainly can't force folks to do that. We just don't have that power.
Thank you for helping me understand. I would like to recommend that we say to the applicant that it is approved, but since it is only paint and will have to be repainted at some point in the future, that the recommendations on these particularly these 5 items that we questioned but are still allowing, be either corrected or attended to in some manner.
I want to mention that in 2013, because we don't have any really defined, they brought forward a booklet of proposed ideas if we could make a sign guidelines. And I don't know if you have a copy of that.
I probably do somewhere in the office. Whether we can locate it, that's another question. So if you'd like to share that, we'll certainly look at it, because we are going to be moving forward. It's just going to be very slow to move forward with what's the most important pieces of a new design guideline for you guys. You know, we're really going to have to look at what's the biggest piece that you guys want to really tackle initially, and then do the research on that. And it's going to be a piecemeal process. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but with a staff of two people and, you know, a recording secretary, this is just not feasible for us to do a major project like that with the other pieces that we have. So it's going to be, you know, bit by bit. Certainly the sign code may be an easy, low-hanging fruit for us to kind of work with you guys on. That may be the best place to start. I just don't know if it's the most important piece for us to do. So we'll be looking for you guys. And again, I would encourage all of you to give me ideas. I mean, obviously don't email each other, but if you want to email me, I'm your staff liaison. You individually can email me if you have ideas or you see things in other communities or those type of things that you kind of want to have a dialogue. I can have those dialogues with you guys individually. We can talk about this board. I can agenda items and we can talk about those things. I'm certainly on this board when you're all here. But those type of things, I don't know what's going on outside of my office, because I don't spend a lot of time outside of Tarpon Springs. Matter of fact, last week in Tampa is probably the most time that I've spent out of Tarpon Springs other than going grocery shopping. This is my community now. I spend a lot of my time here, especially in this building. So that being the case, I don't get a lot of time to go out, you know, into the bigger world. I don't have that luxury. So anything that you can share with me that you found or you have or was researched in the past, assume we don't have it.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward with that. So anything that you want to share in that way. And then again, what we can do is maybe at the next meeting is kind of set up what we want to kind of accomplish maybe in the next 6 months, and then do it again in 6 months later and that type of thing, just so we kind of under board comments, we can kind of just have a chat about that so that we know where you guys want to go. so that we can try to fill in those gaps and try to address some of these issues as we can. Okay?
Okay, I appreciate that. And do we have an applicant who would like to speak for the sign tonight? Do we have anyone that would like to speak, that's not the applicant, but would like to speak for it or against the sign? Okay. Do we have a motion from the board?
I have one more question.
Okay,
Is there
yes.
is there any bit of this certificate for approval that actually like identifies that this is an infraction, or that this was a sign that's already been painted, and that because maybe I wasn't reading it clearly, but I was sort of under the impression that they were building a new sign that they were going to be putting on the building.
Yeah,
and then I was also under the impression they were maybe going to paint another one on the west side on Court Street, and then
no. This is the only sign that's being requested at this time. Now, if they choose to do other signs, obviously when we go back to the applicant with whatever you guys do decide tonight, we will sit with the applicant and explain, okay, this happened once. We don't want to see a reoccurrence of this. If it does, then where the penalty comes in is not so much this board, is when they go to actually permit this, they end up paying double, sometimes triple permit fees. And that's really the punishment for doing anything without a permit. Some things are a little bit more forgivable, a sign being painted on a wall, other than the fact that it's not great that it happened in the historic district. That's not a super punitive thing, but somebody who builds a building with a floor without a permit.
Yeah, I get that the policing this sort of stuff is a gray area, and for us that's not our concern, but just so that we know what we're looking at.
We can certainly add to the staff analysis just the fact that it's an after the fact. We try to downplay that as much as possible because obviously we really don't want to be punitive to people. Sometimes people, especially our business owners who maybe knew or had their stuff done from, a previous owner did all their signage for them and they kind of just moved in and it was, ready to go. If they haven't had to deal with that before, they just...
Yeah, I just personally, maybe I was a little slow on a Monday, but I was looking at it all day, and I've just now realized that it was for a sign that had already, and I knew it had been painted, but I thought it was a sign being built and hung on the wall.
We can certainly do that. We can add that it's an after the fact for you guys.
Okay.
So you'll know that.
I'll make that motion for the approval.
Approve the application as it's been recommended. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. The roll call, please.
Ms. Page,
No.
Ms. Protermitis,
Yes.
Mr. Tunstall,
Yes.
Ms. Kolianis,
Yes. Now we will move on to the next application, CA 1688, Philip Borinsky. Okay, okay. We've got some good names this evening. 227 Bass Street, construction of an attached garage, studio, and breezeway. And could we hear from the staff on?
Yeah, just in 1 minute, I just want to make the board aware. This is one of the first errors that I have found in our historic district. The site file, the master site file for this application shows the house as it appears. I went out, I reviewed everything that was done for that. However, the mapping portion that is added to the back of those master site files, those really bad GIS maps that are really hard to read, and then the GPS information that's there, the reason why those are added to the maps is so that in today's technology with GIS, we can just easily locate them on a map. Because the master site file was incorrect, that error was carried over into your map. So staff is going to be doing some research to see what we have to do at the state level to fix the master site file. That's the number one piece that needs to happen. We need to fix those mapping errors that were attached to that master site file so that everything is correct. Then staff will then have to amend your map for your historic district to relocate the piece of where is the contributing structure versus where are the other structures that are deemed non-contributing. Along with that, what Doug has brought up to us today about his property at 305, we're going to have to do some research on that because that is not included in the master site file. However, because this mapping error happened, we need to research and make sure that there wasn't an error that meant to show his property as well as part of that and just was never followed through on. These do happen. What I think is happened here is it's just a mapping error and it was just carried over into the map. And so that's been carried over into several different iterations. It all started with that master site file being incorrect. Then the GIS brought it over into the map because, again, they used the N address. Their address locator had the wrong 227. The location of 227 was wrong on the map. It's not unheard of here because your addresses have changed over time drastically here in the city. So as a result, I'm pretty sure that that's what happened, but I want to be sure. So as a result, that's going to happen. Then once those things happen and we are pretty sure that that map comes back through, it'll have to get readopted in all that form. I will then have to amend the comprehensive plan where we added that map as well. So this is going to be an ongoing process. There's going to be a bunch of moving parts. The first place we want to start with this is definitely that master site file. We want to make sure that's correct. I want to be able to answer Doug's questions about his property specifically because he is in the district, but he is shown as, right now he's incorrectly shown as a contributing structure. However, the pictures, the description are actually for 227 Bath, which is on the other side of the alley. He's they're on the north side of the alley versus it's shown on the south side of the alley. So that's a problem. We need to fix that. That's actually not an alley. It's Boyer Street there, but it appears to be an alley. It's just a very small road. As a result, we need to correct that. So while we get into discussing this, just understand that your staff is going to be working on that. We're going to be in a learning curve to determine all this stuff. None of us were here when those master site files were created. We're going to have to work with the state to figure out what their process is, fix that first, and then there's going to be many steps after that for us to fix because, of course, your documents are pervasive in many different documents because they've been added to the comp plan, they've been added to the land development code. So all those different documents will get fixed to address that. At the same time that we do that, it will be my hopeful opinion is to move that into a GIS format so that your map is basically a point-to-click map so that we have it's a little bit easier to read because right now the addresses are bitty, and unless you print it out for that area, it's super hard to read. It will be easier if somebody clicks on it and it gives an informational page that kind of says, okay, here's the master site file number, and then here is the address so that people can go back and forth because right now we don't have a super user-friendly master site file. I'm hoping that that's one of those things that as we kind of bite off little small pieces, we can go forward and get a much better system where eventually what I would like to see is you click on that and boom, it goes right to the master site file. We're ways away from something like that. But I just wanted you to know that all of that's got to happen. I don't want to hold this applicant up because I have no idea how long that's going to take to fix his property. But I did go out, the master site file matches his house. The pictures match his house that we do have. I don't have any of the field notes of that type of thing. I'm hoping we can locate them for this particular project. But there is, in fact, nothing wrong other than that map. So with that, we can get into the staff report, but I wanted to make sure that we are aware that there's a mapping issue here, and it is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's actually part of my questions, because I went to our resources that are online. I couldn't see and so I went online and I was able to zoom in, and when I looked at the maps, there was gross discrepancies between the property we're talking about. And Janice, I guess that's who you were talking about, Janice? Janice was the one that validated this aerial photograph as being the property, but
it's incorrect.
Incorrect. So is the property up for discussion? It is listed, the page that shows the contributing historical properties, and it is 227 is listed there.
227 is in fact listed there. What's wrong is the maps that show it on one side of the street, and it actually is on the other side of the street. but it is a contributing structure. It does need to come here for the types of improvements that are being requested. Any of the other properties that are listed there are either, that are actually south of this, are either contributing but altered, or they are non-historic homes. Now, I will tell you, if you go out there and stand next to 227 and you look at 305, I'm going to tell you you're talking the difference between the late 50s and the early 60s, okay? That's how close we're talking about. I would say that house at 305 may have some historical significance. However, it wasn't included as a contributing structure as our master site file recognizes it. But again, I wasn't here when that happened. I have no idea what your cutoff time frame was for that, because that house style was 60 on. It could have been the late 60s versus the early 60s. So that being the case, it's really hard to determine just sitting there looking at the house. You know, I would need their notes to tell me why they did X, Y, and Z, and what was the criteria for listing to answer that question. But the question here that we really just need to know is that master site file as it is written, with the exception of the map, is correct to this house at a number of 227. That is his physical address. And I went out and field verified this because I don't trust anything like this in Tarpon when I find discrepancies, because addressing has been such a interesting avenue since I've gotten here in Tarpon. Things have changed addressing many times. And so as a result, when you get into those historical pieces, addresses change all the time because businesses change, neighbors change, even buildings sometimes change, and they change the location on their property. I mean, we have one property that we had a house move. Somebody coming new would not know that that house was moved across the street from the Eco Village property. And when they go to look at the master site file for that house, they're going to look at the master site file for an address that's actually across the street. That's how those master site files are set up. We need to go through as a staff and start correcting those things that were never corrected. And that's been pervasive for probably as long as this board's been doing demolitions and those types of things. Those things haven't been corrected that I'm aware of. So those are those type of things that we need to go back through our files and start doing these corrective actions. Just give me one more second, because we kind of need to get your application going here, so I don't keep everybody all night. But those are those type of things that we're going to be dealing with. So, and Madam Chair, it's up to you whether you want me to address his question or you want us to start the application, and then when he gets up, we
Well,
can
I
speak.
think we ought to start the application first,
Okay.
and then we'll ask for comments. Yes, okay.
Okay, this is case number 16-88. The property is located at 227 Bath Street, I promise. Okay, the applicant is Philip Marant. I said I wasn't going to mess it up.
Rosinski.
The applicant is requesting a certificate of approval for the construction of an attached garage studio and a screen breezeway leading to the existing home. The architectural style is masonry vernacular. The zoning district is the R60 1 and 2 family district, and it is located within the residential urban future land use. The structure is a contributing structure built in the masonry vernacular style and was constructed in 1957. The building was constructed in concrete block and has a stucco and weatherboard exterior with scoring on the stucco, with jalousie windows that wrap the building corners. The house has a gable and flat roof with end louvers, and it's topped with composite shingles. It appears as though the roof was either repaired or replaced in 1990 prior to the applicant's purchase of the home. The applicant is seeking a certificate of approval to allow for a garage studio addition with an attached breezeway connecting to the home. In reviewing the application for a certificate of approval, the board shall consider the following criteria. The height and width of any proposed alteration or new construction shall be consistent with that of adjacent contributing structures, and those structures of similar character and architectural style found throughout the immediate neighborhood or district. Under staff's analysis, we report that since the proposed addition is connected to the home through a breezeway, it is technically considered part of the house square footage. Many of the surrounding homes in the neighborhood are equal to or much larger than what is being proposed. The homes on the same street and block are cottage-style wood, vinyl siding homes, or concrete block stucco homes. so the proposed exterior in appearance is compatible with the existing homes in the neighborhood. Number 2, the width and height of windows, doors, and entries shall be consistent with the character of the building's original architectural style, and repair or replacement of missing architectural features such as windows, mullions, doors, entries, and handrails should be based on accurate duplications substantiated by historic, physical, or pictorial evidence rather than any conjectural designs or the availability of different architectural elements from other buildings or structures. Within staff's analysis, we found that the applicant has chosen windows that are similar in appearance and style with the existing home. They will be white vinyl or fiberglass to match the home. The relationship of the structure within an historic or cultural preservation district to the open space between it and the street and to other buildings or scenic views, vistas, or streetscapes characterizing the area shall be protected through a site plan review process addressing setbacks, roof lines, garage placement, parking and access analysis, and the use of landscaping. Staff's response is, the lot measures 60 by 143 feet. The required lot setbacks will be met. The addition is being constructed behind the existing house, so the view from the front street will be limited. Under number 4, the shape and texture of the roof shall replicate the shape, texture, and type of roof distinguishing the building's original architecture and on structures of similar style and age within the historic and cultural preservation district. Staff's response is that the applicant has provided updated conceptual elevations of the design of the proposed garage studio addition with patio balcony screening walls that will be constructed with horizontal cedar boards. Number 5, the size and mass of the building after alteration shall be reflective of the building's original architectural style. Lost my place. The size and mass or shape of the proposed structure in new construction should reflect the character of contributing buildings within the district, as well as those immediately surrounding the subject property, and shall include a review of architectural elements such as roof lines, fenestration, and other components of facade design. Staff's response is that by code, any accessory structure must be subordinate in area to the primary structure. The existing home consists of 1,085 square feet. The proposed garage studio consists of 816 square feet. The aerial photo provided within the staff report shows the houses and lot coverages found within the same block, which actually cover more square footage on the lots. And the neighboring roof lines range from flat to salt box and gabled. Under number 6, the landscaping shall be utilized as means to enhance the architectural character and appearance of the structure. Under staff's analysis, we found that this is a new home for the applicant, just purchased in August of last year. The applicant is moving in from Wisconsin, and he has flown in for this meeting to inhabit the home and will be providing additional landscaping in the future. Under number 7, distinctive architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. Architectural details, including color, materials, texture, and site lighting, shall be treated so as to make the building, structure, or traditional cultural property consistent with the property's original architectural style and character. New materials should replicate the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. Staff's response is that the applicant wishes to utilize hardy board siding in the construction of the new addition in a color and texture that matches the existing home. Under number 8, all buildings, structures, sites, and traditional cultural properties shall be recognized as products of their own time, so that any alterations, modifications, or other changes to the structure or traditional cultural property should not attempt to create an earlier appearance than the original date of the construction. Staff's response is, it is not anticipated that the new structure will portray an earlier appearance. Under number 9, the renovation of a contributing structure in an historic or cultural district or designated sites shall meet the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. Staff's response is that the Secretary of Interior standards recommend the following for new additions. For recommending locating the attached exterior addition at the rear or on the inconspicuous side of the historic building and limiting its size and scale in relationship to the historic building. Designing new additions in a manner that make clear what is historic and what is new. considering the attached exterior addition both in terms of the new use and the appearance of other buildings in the historic district or neighborhood. Design for the new work may be contemporary or may reference design motifs from the historic building. Number 10, the proposed project shall conform to other requirements of the code and be in compliance with applicable goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Staff's response is the new addition will be required to meet the city's land development code through the permitting process and the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. And we do not suspect that there are any archaeological sites which will be impacted. For this reason, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request for the new addition with hardy board siding as provided. Any questions?
I have a question. Were we given plans for the new addition?
In the updated staff report,
Okay.
there was, I'm gonna slide you down mine, because I certainly don't need it. But yeah, there's some updated elevations.
Okay. Is that this one here?
Few of them.
It's in that packet I just gave her. There's right there.
Elevation.
Okay, I have that one. I mean, because normally we kind of get some blueprint of some sort.
This is what the applicant has provided at this point for the elevations for the actual structure.
Are we able to ask the applicant questions yet?
Yes,
Or-
I'm going to ask right now. Would the applicant like to speak, come before the board and state your name? And I guess you already have, but did we get the mic up? There we go. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Philip Morozinski. My address is 807 Center, Mineral Point, Wisconsin. I'm the owner of 227 Bath. Any questions you have?
On the updated plans, is this still a 1.5 story structure? Or is it a 2-story structure now?
1.5. Is this what you have?
That's
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 1.5 meaning that
I saw no reason, frankly, I wanted to keep it as low as possible. And I saw no reason to have a full second story because the interior, the ceiling is going to be vaulted, unfinished basically. So I felt I could come down with the roof a little bit and still have a good amount of space.
the existing home, is the finish on the outside the hardy board finish?
Only, well, they didn't make hardy board back then. It's actually stucco block. I don't know if you have any of the photos of the existing house, but the gable sides of the house have a lap siding, and that was the reason I chose the smooth siding for the addition, and I chose hardy board because of its weather resistance and hardiness.
The new plans that you presented are still approximately like 816 square feet.
If anything happens, we may cut 2 feet off of the back of it, so it might even be smaller. It will not be larger. My wife and I it's just the two of us, and we want to have, frankly, as low an impact as possible. It will not be larger. It's possible that we'll lose some square footage.
Well, right now we don't have any measurement on the.
You should.
Okay, that's 20.
Okay, there it is.
In the setback on this is 5 feet. Is that the code? It is. Okay, thank you.
That is correct.
Okay. board have any other questions for the applicant?
I just have a question on, I guess it's on the updated agenda, and it's the area in red that says analysis on, I guess, let's see. If the first page of the report would be page 1, page 2, page 3, and it's the very bottom analysis there that's about halfway down the page. It says the applicant has provided updated conceptual elevations of the design of the proposed garage studio addition, provided on the next 3 pages. The brown walls shown are patio balcony screening walls that will be constructed with horizontal cedar boards. I just didn't quite understand that. That last sentence there, the brown walls. Which are the brown walls?
If you look on the elevation, there's just like this blank brown space, and I wanted to make sure when you saw it, since this is not a true architectural rendering, yeah. Do you see that brown area there?
Here on the left?
No, on the actual elevation, just up on the top, that right there, that's what we were talking about. Wanted to make sure you guys were aware of what that was, because it looks like just a big blank area.
Okay.
And I didn't know if it was a railing or what it was, so wanted to make sure that when Lisa was doing this, that you guys we had clarification, because it looks like just a big blank area, and I have no idea what's going there, but what's going to be going there is, like they've said, they're gonna basically do a wall, like a knee wall almost there, where that'll have the cedar shingles.
Well, it'll be, again, I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm familiar with wood up there that is weatherproof. I don't know exactly what I would be using down here, but it would be cedar or cypress or something.
But you're looking for a wood look, correct?
It'll be wood, and I should have drawn some
Yeah.
horizontal lines.
It
which
just
I
was
didn't.
hard to tell what it was, so we just asked the applicant to clarify that, and I just wanted to make sure in case you guys would have that question, because if I was in your shoes, I would ask.
Yeah, it's
So-
basically a wooden fence, a wooden railing, and a privacy fence across the front with horizontal wood.
Okay, so that is
I just
real
didn't draw
wood.
the lines.
That is real wood, so to speak.
It'll be
whereas
wood.
the rest of the siding is the hardy board. It's going to be,
Correct.
you're going to be using the hardy board.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I had a question about the setback also, just to clarify, please. This is what you were referencing with the 5 feet setbacks?
That's correct.
And is this based on the 1958 survey? I mean, we only base it on one survey?
They'll have to, when they come in for the time permitting, they will have to give us updated surveys, but usually for these types of applications, if they have a survey, we're super happy. Because then we know that at least those survey boundaries, we know that that's the boundary. Now, when you get a little bit farther back in time, it's questionable at how good the survey technology was back then and how good the surveyor was. So we take that with a grain of salt. But the applicant will have to prove to us at permitting that they meet the minimum setbacks. If they don't prove that, they will have to alter their plan. Now, a setback changing isn't necessarily going to drastically change the appearance of this. If it comes, as long as it's coming into the property, not going closer to the property, we're satisfied. So yes, we would normally ask for an updated survey, but we try to be reasonable with what we're requesting applicants to do, because they're early in the process when they come to you guys.
I was just, this kind of relates to what Mr. McElwain was addressing as far as the drainage issues. Setback would come into play, but again, as you said, when the permitting process goes through.
The 5 foot he's showing meets the requirement. Now, whether that 5 foot he's actually showing there is the physical 5 foot, I can't dispute that without an updated survey. This is a kind of a rough survey for me to go off of anyway, but it's sufficient for the needs to verify that they are attempting to meet your regulations.
I have a question. I'm just wondering, we have this original masonry stucco. Is it stucco on the masonry?
Yes.
And now we're going to put on it this totally different look that I'm just, that I'm looking at. Had you thought about maybe trying to match what you have already?
Well, actually, there's a builder that I've been talking to, and he came out today, And I didn't know how that would affect tonight's meeting because we've already set it all up. He was suggesting to build it in block. I frankly, again, I'm more familiar with this sort of construction. I wasn't really aware that you could easily build a 1.5-story block structure. And we didn't talk price. I know that should not come into play with any of these plans here. This is what my wife and I came up with. Are we married to it? If you guys feel that it should be a different look, I would certainly be willing to pursue that.
Can I just ask a question? The actual block appearance and the stucco appearance is on the front and the rear of the structure, but the sides have a different treatment, is that correct?
On the existing house?
Yes.
No, it's complete.
It's all stucco, okay.
The only thing, it's I'm not even sure if it's stucco. What it looks like is just a sprayed on sand finish,
Okay.
is what it looks like to me. So I don't know that it's stucco. It feels like sandpaper.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. Now we will ask for any other comments from the audience, please.
Thank you again for letting me talk, speak to the board. And again, my name's Doug McElwain, and I'm next door neighbor, and we've become fast friends already. And I just have a couple concerns, and I know this isn't the drainage meeting, but part of these concerns are going to address the drainage again. I'm a little concerned, and nobody knows better than Phil about how bad we flood there, as we've been sandbagging his house, and he completely got flooded out in this last one. All the rain and all the water and all the flooding comes from behind our two houses and from the storm drain in front. So my concern with the roof line and the setback and the orientation of the building on this property and the landscaping and everything else, if he builds all this, all that water that's currently coming through his backyard into his house is going to be forced into my yard. And so I just want to make sure that we address all those issues. And my concern, and Heather, I know we're meeting tomorrow. We have to change the time. I have a doctor's appointment, so I want to talk to you about that another time. I want to make sure we address all those issues because I need to be able to address my problems. And it sounds like this process to change the maps to find out if I'm historical or not is going to take a whole long time. And I can't really wait much longer. I've already flooded 4 times and I haven't even been there a year. So I'm concerned this new building is going to direct all of the water off of his property onto mine or into Boyer River, which I actually call it rather than Boyer Lane because it turns into a river every time it rains hard. And I can talk to the city about the storm drains at another time because that's not being maintained even remotely. So I just wanted to go on record to express a concern that I'm very concerned with this structure is just going to increase the amount of flooding for me, maybe minimize his, which floods terribly also because it's going to redirect all the water away from the back of his existing structure towards Boyer River, Boyer Alley, and my house. So thank you very much.
I want to mention one thing. I grew up on Pineapple Street, and I'm very familiar with the area, which is only 2 streets over. And there's a reason why it was called Bath Street. Martin Luther King used to be called Lake Street, and there were reasons. I think, unfortunately, is we had natural drainage at one point in time where all those townhouses were built. And now when we're having a lot more water issues, those, there's just not enough places for that water to go. And as you say, so it needs to have some real strong, different, remedies done to that area. our street never flooded, and when those townhouses were put in, it started to flood on the Pineapple Street side too. So anyway, I certainly understand what you're talking about, the water. But back to the addition again. I'm just, I'm kind of concerned that we don't have enough information here to really move forward and say yes on this. I'm just wondering how the rest of the board feels.
I agree that there's a bit of an inconsistency between the stucco in the front building and then the facade of the new proposed structure. And I'm not sure how that falls in line there.
It also-
Can
go
we
ahead.
put those caveats into the approval if we made that motion to draw into your plans that either a composite hardy board finish with stucco rather than the lap siding plus a matching gable for the roof line? I think that would be an important caveat in there as well. That's something that we've addressed in other.
Yeah, you can certainly, if you want to change this approval, like if you don't want the hardy board, if you want it to be a stucco appearance, or if you want that type of thing, you certainly, those sections of the approval, you would basically just deny the use of hardy board, like, which is what we've done in additional applications. If you want an additional gable, obviously I would ask the applicant to come back up so you guys can kind of talk about this so that they can be part of that discussion. But if that's the pleasure of the board that you want to add features or you want to talk to the applicant about specific design features, there's two different issues here. What I heard the chair say is I don't have enough information to render a decision. If that's the question, then we need to know specifically, we need to give the applicant a specific list of what you would like, okay? That's the first piece. If you feel you have enough information, but you would like additional changes to what you see here, that's the conversation that we have, that when you do your motion, you would add conditions or ask to have items removed from your actual approval. And if your approval differs from what the applicant wants, they have avenues to pursue remediation if they feel that that's necessary. But you as a board have that power to determine what you think is appropriate. Now, again, it's a two situation. We got two different motions really here. One is continue. I hear one is continue because I need more information. The other is I'm okay with the information I've got, but I want to discuss other issues. So you guys tell me where you want to go with this.
The other thing is Mr. Marzinski stated that he and his wife had discussed or you and a builder had discussed the possibility of it being a block structure. And if that happens, if we approve the structure and then later, do we approve it as it is and then he has to
He comes back.
again? He has to come back?
Essentially, this is a contributing structure. So whatever he gets approved tonight, his addition has to be consistent with.
I see.
If he chooses to make changes to that, would be significant. If you're going to go from stick construction back to a block construction, that's enough of a change that certainly is going to have an appearance change for this board, and that's what this board's really tasked with, is the outside appearance of structure. And is it appropriate for the district? Is it appropriate for this contributing structure, but is also appropriate for the district? Because you're answering two questions when you answer these applications. Yes, it's appropriate for the home, or no, it's not appropriate for the home, and yes, it's appropriate for the district, or no, it's not appropriate for the district. And sometimes those can be in conflict with each other, and you guys have to kind of work that out with the conditions that you propose. So,
Well, one of the things you mentioned when you're looking at historic homes and what they were looking at probably in 2009 when they did this survey, is it fell in that category of a historic home at the time. And the time period of the 50s was now beginning to be recognized as a significant type of architecture. So to me, the architecture in the drawings are totally different.
But
Okay.
it's similar to I think she's talking about the lap siding and
Right.
and the porch
That's,
line.
this is not it.
Well, either way, I agree that it looks like two completely different types of construction. You've got the updated pack. Personally, for me, I know this, we have to discuss this here, and for me, I could approve this addition personally if he matched the roof line pitch on the two properties and matched the finish on the exterior of the building. For me, that's up to the rest of you if you want to make that.
Matching the exterior as in
That-
going
as
with
in
the
go-
stucco
As in
versus
going
the
with
hardy
either a
board?
stucco finish or block. Either way, a matching exterior, because this, if you did the hardy board siding sheets and then stucco.
You're adding
which is
horizontal lines where horizontal planes where there aren't horizontal planes
the way
now.
it is now, you are, yeah. And if you could match a stucco finish to the outside, whether it was block or stick construction, that wouldn't necessarily be relevant to me, or I don't know if it would to us, but as long as the finish was the same on the exterior, you know.
The type of construction only matters if it affects the finish. So that's where the rub comes in. If you want to use, if you're going to do stick construction and you want that lap siding look, whether you're using hardy board or pine board, it really doesn't make a difference. Here, that introduction of that horizontal plane is really where you guys are getting the change, and just the change in that whole appearance.
Yeah, I'd like to see a matching finish on the two structures personally. The horizontal wood boards on the porches, I think, are beautiful. I think that's a nice addition personally. Again, that's sort of up to the rest of the
That would be
board.
more of an accent versus a full wall of vertical or a full wall of horizontal plane.
Well, do I hear a motion from the board? We would have to put it together.
Yeah, I mean,
We need to,
I'd like to make a motion that the structure be approved contingent upon matching finishes on the original structure and the new structure.
Can I make it a little bit more explicit? You would move to approve the application, paren 1, if the existing finish of a stucco finish matched the proposed finish on the addition, as the addition is shown on the attached site plan. That would be your paren 1. Where's your paren 2? Because I'm sure there's another one coming.
Well, I believe Mr. Tunstall suggested the roof line, and I agree with that as
So
well.
paren 2 would be that, again, it's approved according to first paren. Second paren would be that the roof line for the proposed addition is consistent and compatible with the existing roof line with that gable look
in pitch.
and pitch.
I think the direction's different, but the pitch, I think, could.
Sorry I didn't mention that, but that was another reason to be able to have a lower structure than it was.
Gotcha. Yeah, again, we usually have a more thorough set of plans. Like, I haven't been here that long, but every meeting we've had a pretty,
but it's okay to go ahead with this proposal without having those.
Yeah, you don't have to have architectural renderings for every house. It's just some folks are a little bit farther along in the process and have really chosen that look or that type of thing. Where he's still meeting with construction folks, he may be still kind of working with an architect as well on what that's going to get, and he's going to have to reconcile, being in Wisconsin and Florida at the same time. So he's got an extra step here.
yeah, I would like to second the motion with those two caveats, and I mean, I think it would be a beautiful addition if you follow through with your plans.
So we have a motion. that
With
we
two
have-
parens.
Okay. And that would be with having a finish on the addition that matches the house, and also a roof line that goes along with the house. The pitch.
No, we're not telling you whether it has to be stick-built or whether it has to be block, as long as you put a treatment on it that matches the existing. Now, if you choose to treat the entire structure, you may need to come back if that treatment's going to do something, but you would work with me and Lisa on that, and we would let you know if that you're going beyond what the intention of the board was with that. So when you get a little bit farther along in the actual treatment you want to choose, and there may be a hardy board type treatment you can utilize on a stick-built home that'll give you that stucco look. I don't know enough about hardy board because what we've seen of this board is basically lap siding, because that's what everybody wants to replace, the hardy board with lap siding. So that's what this board has really experienced. There may be other treatments out there that are a little different that are like what you've got.
Okay. So we have a first and a motion, and we have a second to the motion. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Tunstall?
Yes.
Ms. Protomitis?
Yes.
Ms. Colianis?
Yes. Now we have staff comments.
I have 2 comments. I
Okay.
didn't print out, I'm trying to save trees because I print a lot all the time for you guys. I did send you an email. There is a Pinellas County Preservation Summit. This is number 6. They've actually, basically it was save the date type thing. I don't think that they actually have an agenda yet, but I sent that to each one of you tonight after 5 o'clock. So if you didn't check your email, that's why you probably don't know anything about it. Please go ahead and look at that if you're interested. Obviously, please let us attend. And if you want staff to accompany you, let us know, and I'll make Lisa available to go with you guys, because she needs to kind of get connected to that greater community outside of Tarpon Springs in the heritage preservation world, so that she kind of knows who to talk to when she's got questions. So we certainly want to make her available to kind of attend some of these trainings and things that are happening. The other thing is I wanted to give a brief, very brief update on the Jesse Burke property. That was the property that we approved the demolition of the small structure. And I don't want to give you too many details because it'll be coming back to you, but the board did go forward and approve a community garden on that site. Now, they have some other work they still have to do before it'll come back, and I'm not sure that the city will actually be the applicant in that case. It may be some other group. It just depends on how the city does that, but I just want to give you an idea that they are moving forward on making that community garden and working through the issues that they have to work through. So that was decided at last Tuesday night's board meeting. So just so you know, they're actively working on that site. So if you see things happening like the building coming down, that type of thing, just know that's the city preparing the site for the next step, which is getting that community garden. They still have to come back and see you guys. They need to go through a conditional use process on that property to allow the use, and then they also need to come back to HPB because you did approve the demolition, but you did not approve a new use on that property, if you guys remembered. So as a result, they will have to come back before you. Hopefully by then they will have a little bit better plan on how that's going to lay out, so you guys will have an idea of how that's going to work. Because obviously we want to try to keep the historical integrity of that, even though it's going to be a garden property. You know, we want them to use the back alley. We don't want, or the front parking on the street. We don't want really a parking lot in the middle of that property. So we're going to want to utilize you folks for that type of thing in the design, you know, with those to try to include historic elements so that we don't change the character of that area. Obviously we would try to avoid that. So that's my 2 statements. I don't know, does our attorney have any comments?
I do not.
Lisa, any comments?
I do not think so.
Okay. Okay. And with that, that's all that I have to say. We have some other city projects that'll be coming forward to you guys for approval in probably the near next 3 months or so, there's 2 different projects, and we'll kind of go through those with you as they evolve a little bit more. But that's all that I have.
Okay. Do we have board comments?
I don't know if, and correct me if this is possibly not the right time or place to say it, but I just want to compliment both gentlemen. I want to say that I sympathize with what you were referring to on the flooding, and I hope that you will find some type of resolution for it. I don't know what it is myself, but hopefully, because that's got to be very frustrating. And also want to thank you for your openness and your willingness to work and respect the district that you're moving into, and we welcome you. Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Well, when you move in to the city, feel free to contact my office, and we will put you to work here in your new home.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I don't have any further comments. So I guess we're adjourned.
Yep.
I think I stole everybody's paper.
She passed that down to you. Do you want it?
You want to hold
Somebody-
we can put together a packet, because you got a whole meeting stuff, so it's all together. It's very distributed.
That one's gonna be real pretty. My notes.
I don't have to, because I'm glad Heather. Oh, that's a horrible.
Yes.
I feel so bad when I take
Yeah,
these
we
big
do
packets
recycle
home and I'm
everything.
not sure what this is.
No, you can give them to me, we recycle everything.
You know,
That's okay, I pulled them out.
over this.
Well, I
because
reuse them, yeah.
Good.
I mean, I just
Thank you.
recall
Have a nice day.
what we had decided at the one meeting. And, I mean, it's too late now. When this was approved, you know, this is what I'm looking at is, you know, that's why I thought it should be stated what the, you know, what was on the application.
I will go and look, because we may have talked about it, and I honestly don't
Yeah.
remember, because we're going back to February. But I
Right.
remember when we did talk about, I don't remember
Right.
exactly what we